But so did you want David to give you like pretty good legitimate texture advice? Because I mean, the stuff is kind of cool, but how far do you want to push it? I think also in general, like I guess we touched on this earlier, but yeah, obviously having things as a demo reel is always easier than clicking on things. UVs. But yeah, let's have a check out your stuff. Yeah, I saw this yesterday. It's really cool, man. Yeah, the complexity is really cool. Honestly, I probably wouldn't bother with the effects. I don't feel this will really add anything to your image.
No, I think it's quite distracting.
Yeah, I feel if you're gonna do this sort of stuff, you might as well. It might as well be a fully textured asset. Like you, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't really add anything to the modeling itself. As far as like the general model though, it looks kind of cool. Oh god.
There are a few things that I noticed for the model. There's at the top, on the head, there are these 3 vent openings. These 3 larger vent openings.
What these ones?
And there's some pinching. Yeah. Oh, sorry, no.
Oh, here.
Close to the face, the eye cover thing.
Yeah.
If you go back a little, yeah, up, yeah, those 3.
Oh, these. Oh yeah,
There
I
is
can
some
see that
pinching.
dent there. Yeah. Ooh,
Yeah.
that's pretty bad, man.
And then same thing on the shoulder as well.
Yeah, that's very noticeable.
There's some pinching on the shoulder.
Yeah, to avoid this sort of stuff,
Connection.
all you simply need is more topology. So let's go look at what your topology looks like. Yeah, this is a bit too low poly for this sort of thing. I would definitely add way more edge loops. Yo, what was that? Yo, people donating. I'm the top creative from our team. That's awesome. That's so funny. But yeah, I feel like the pinching there is really obvious. So definitely be careful about that. I think what makes it even more obvious is because you have a very reflective material. So if if you have a very reflective material, the pinch is going to be super obvious. Like you can get away with pinching if your material is if the specular is quite low, but even then, I would still have probably double the resolution for this section to avoid that.
Yeah, it's also the headpiece, that screen, kind of bothers me, the fact that it's so low res, like you can see the individual polys.
Oh yeah, that's true. You
And
can
it's
see it
just
here.
not necessary if it's already such a high res object overall.
Is that in the concept though? No, it's not. I don't know. There's some things I would be concerned about if we're going to get super nitpicky. Like, especially since the concept is right here, I can see this feels a bit more curved, where this is kind of just like a solid square. So I feel like I'm still noticing differences between the concept and the model. That's always kind of one of the problems with having concept.
Yeah, it's
Because
always a bit.
I've noticed this section here is done differently to this section.
Yeah.
So you can see, like for example, you can see this difference is
Yeah, I was
very
looking at that
obvious here.
too. And it's not just the shape. I mean, I guess that could just be creative liberty, but then again, this is kind of stretched, so it's not actually modeled very cleanly.
Yeah, this bit is a bit strange.
Yeah.
But to be fair, like what you've picked is a very complex asset. Like this is not an easy thing to model. So I think this is definitely a cool challenge. But it's
definitely one of the really harder
the tail is a bit strange.
Start with. And
yeah, the tail is completely different.
Yeah. And the those pipes in the back, those hoses, they seem to change thickness on these little ridges wherever there is a bend. Like that all the way at the back on his back. It's like the thickness of these little individual elements. The one that's really close to the camera, for example, seems quite a bit thicker and wider than that one closer to the back. And I don't know if that's just maybe it's just a perspective, but there's definitely that one bending piece at the bottom of that outer hose is really squished. So just retaining that volume in those bends.
Okay, also just another, I feel we have to put the disclaimer up again. This is obviously just me and David's opinion. It's nothing personal. This is about nothing against the artist itself. We're just simply commenting on things in front of us that we see.
Yeah.
But I think this in general, like I think for example, the general modeling of it, like the actual topology itself is not bad.
Yeah.
So the modeling itself is fine, but I feel like this kind of
is another one of those things where if you're picking something so intricate, then it really needs to be excellent.
Exactly, and I also feel
it's so easy to screw up with this.
And I feel this is also another reason of why I always tell people to build from the real world, because if you build from a concept, building from concept means you have to interpret shapes, and if you don't nail it, it can be quite obvious. So I think that is kind of the main thing with this piece, like and you also have no reference to a lot of this stuff, so it can be really hard to pull this sort of stuff off. So I feel like your modeling, your general modeling is decent. It's quite good. But I feel like if you put like this energy and effort into modeling something you had like plenty of really good reference of, you would end up with a much better result. Where I feel with this, like there's just artistic decisions which I don't think were correct. Like like especially this piece. Things like that.
It's just so easy. I mean, so easy basically to just match something that you have right in front of you, or you're actually matching an image 1-to-1. So you're really doing yourself a favor if you're doing a real object or something that you actually have really good reference of.
Yeah, totally. I think personally, like with your experience, what you got from this is pretty good, but it'll get ripped apart by professionals. That's the only problem. I feel like from your experience, for you to model this is very hard to model. Even I would find this pretty complex to model.
Yeah.
So I feel you still did a solid job on it, but then as soon as we start looking at it, we start pulling it apart.
Yeah, it's very risky to do something so complex.
So this is why I always suggest people model from the real world, especially as a student, because you'll be taking that gamble if you don't pull it off. Where if you model from the real world, you have the reference right there, you can just copy it. So it shows you have the time and the patience to model, like to do decent modeling. But I just feel when you try to build concept from an early, especially because it's so complex, you have no idea what the thickness of that chest is because you can't see it. Like, to making these creative decisions are very hard for someone with not much experience. So I feel like what you've done is a solid effort. Like it really is a very solid effort. But then we start picking it apart because we start to notice the subtle differences between the concept and the mesh.
And then about the just general presentation, like Andrew said, I think that those effects, I would get rid of that. But the materials, I think, to me, the materials that they kind of look like plastic. They don't look very realistic. I think since you choose to do materials, I think first of all it would be completely fine to just have a clay render.
Yeah.
I don't think you need any material. It does kind of make it more memorable, I guess. If it's a blue character now, that might be more memorable than a just clay render. But if you really want to do materials, just download a material preset, a good one from like it might be worth paying the $5 or whatever you pay for it. If you want to have a realistic, I don't know what, like a Transformers car paint or whatever on this, or a real metal, because to me this doesn't look like metal at the moment, the diffuse.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of just like a blend shader in Maya. Like it
really looks like just a default plane, or some sort of car paint or something. But yeah, I think it totally it's absolutely nothing wrong with just doing a clear render. In fact, I think it really focuses on the important. Like I find this. If
I don't like that it's too shiny. I don't like how everything is like stained, like pure metal.
Yeah, it's just not. Yeah,
it's distracting. I can't really see the forms too well. I don't feel.
Although I mean, I do. Looking at the concept again, I see it's obviously blue, or so. Well, not necessarily blue. Might also just be metal.
Yeah, that's true.
Reflective metal. So you were following the reference, I guess, to some extent, but yeah. Again, that's what makes it tricky in the end and risky to do what, like Andrew said, follow concept art.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff, man. It's definitely, yeah, the tail is completely off as well, but it's definitely a very solid effort.
Yeah.
But the pinching is actually not that bad. There are way worse models in film.
Yeah, true, but I mean,
it's super obvious for us.
Yeah.
If you can avoid it, you might as well. Like,
but in the end, if like there's really bad stuff in film, but in the end, that's a decision that usually somebody made, that this is good enough. We don't want to spend the money on this.
Yeah.
So we'll just leave it at that. But if you're showing your very, very best work and it has a lot of issues or some issues, why would I hire somebody who shows that they just show something that is their best work and it's not? Yeah.
Because also keep in mind, we get, like, well, not us personally, but studios get a lot of people applying, so you get to pick the best from what you want, pretty much.
Yeah.
So if you see someone with pinching and then you see someone that cleaned up their pinching, you would obviously get the pinching one. But yeah, just as a general overview of this, like, this is a very solid effort for someone that's not that experienced in modeling. 2 years is 2 years isn't that experience. So to pull this off in 2 years, this is way better than anything in my portfolio, like my personal work. So
yeah,
it's a very solid attempt, because this is very complex. This is really hard. So yeah, definitely a very strong effort, man. How do you feel about the aircraft? I think we're gonna have the same sort of feedback, I feel.
Yeah. Again, in terms of texturing, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't. Either you really go in and add the textures to a level where it's really believable, or I would just get rid of it altogether. If you're focusing on modeling, if you look at any of the, just Google any, I don't know, F-14 fighter jet or something, just the breakup on the surfaces. It should be a lot more going on in the textures than what we're seeing right now. Just overall, there doesn't seem to be any spec map at all. I mean, there might be one, but it's just hard to notice any detail in there.
Kind of reminds me of a miniature.
It does, especially the edge,
the edge
detail at the bottom. It's just super uniform, and then the map that you put in there to be revealed seems to be just a noise. And the paint, it does have kind of this painted effect, which I'm not sure. I mean, it's a fantasy plane, I guess, so you can't really judge it too hard in that regard. But I'm not sure if they would just have like really old paint that you would kind of like rough paint that you would find on an old World War II plane.
Yeah.
It does definitely need a lot more work in the texturing. So I'm not sure if you really want to focus on that to enhance your assets here.
Yeah, I feel like if you don't want to do texturing, but your texturing is not strong, you shouldn't do texturing in your portfolio. Because I think, that's the funny thing, right? Your modeling is definitely the stronger point, but there's almost no gray renders of it, and there's just one model turntable at the end with the wireframe. Where this, I think the wireframe is nice. So I think in general, it's very obvious you know how to model. We can see it, but it's more. What's that?
I'm just reading in the description. Working without UVs.
What?
So yeah, I mean, so this was done without UVs. This is completely procedural texturing. Yeah. I mean, you can definitely get a really cool result with just procedural texturing as well. But it is limiting, and I feel there really isn't any point in doing a lot of procedural texturing on an object that you don't actually even want to go to the extent where you actually texture it. I mean, I don't know. I feel it doesn't really add much to it to do a little half-assed texturing job on top of a nice model. Either you do it like all the way with UVs and properly,
Yeah, exactly.
or just not at all.
Alright, I mean, this is not the end of the world. Because this is your naming hierarchy in general is definitely going to change like no matter what studio you're going to go to. But we wouldn't group things by color or material. I would just have it like panels. So I would have like L panels, stuff like that. Or big paneling.
Yeah, but it's cool to see that you actually did go to the extent of like thinking about the hierarchy and structure and organizing it well.
This is definitely, yeah, it's definitely good to see. But yeah, keep in mind that no matter what studio you go to, this is going to be different. But it is good to see you've thought about it, because a lot of students don't think about this sort of stuff. So it's cool to see that you showed it as well. But yeah, like as far as like your topology goes, man, it's really cool. Like topology itself is pretty solid. I don't know. I think this bit could have been executed a bit better. This feels really weird to me. The fact that you have this very very perfect curved shape here, but then it's like kind of bent and weird. There's a different view of it somewhere.
Yeah, I noticed that too, actually.
Like this bit here, I would have modeled it to kind of continue and wrap around it consistently, because you just kind of wouldn't have this weird, like it just looks like this is just two shapes just intersected into each other. Like this doesn't meet with this one. At the very, very least, I would have gotten this line here to meet that one. So it's a nice curve instead of just like a jagged shape like that. And yeah. But in general, like I like how you show reference and stuff like that. That's always cool.
Yeah.
Concept is cool. But yeah, the problem is as soon as you show the concept, I'm now going to start comparing. Like this is the problem. Like I already noticed like this is different to this one here. Stuff like that. So then what will happen, right, is say for example, supervisors looking at this, they might look at the concept and look at your model and be like, why didn't they copy it? Were they unable to model this correctly, so they kind of cheated?
Yeah, and if you don't show it, if you don't give credit, or I mean, obviously not giving credit to somebody else's work that you created in 3D wouldn't be good. But then if you do give credit and not show the reference, then they're gonna ask, well, where's the reference?
Yeah, exactly. Like I've noticed, for example, this vent or black thing here, the size difference between there and there is very different. So the more closer we look at this, we realize how different they actually are. So I feel like if you are going to model on the concept, you have to match it. Like this is why I think building real world objects is always better, because you can just match it much easier.
Yeah, and if you look at the first image from the bottom above the turntable, that back view, there are a lot of just blocky shapes, which if you had this as a real object, I don't think you would ever find anything like this. So if you're going from reference, you'll have to make these things up and you have to give them a purpose, and they need to look right. They need to have a certain look to them. They need to be recognizable as something.
Yeah, this looks very flimsy.
Yeah. So you'll have to make up every single little detail that isn't perfectly detailed, like perfectly built to the highest level of detail in the reference. So yeah, it's quite difficult to build from concept art like that. So that's really, I wouldn't do that as a portfolio piece.
Yeah, this is definitely why I always suggest build from the real world, because you don't have to make stuff up. You can get, I think if you want to make a very strong portfolio piece, go to a museum, like obviously when the current situation is up, and physically walk around an aircraft, take photos of everything. You can get photos of anything you want from the asset and then build it, because you won't have to make up the back because you have a reference of it. But I feel like your modeling in general is decent. You can model. Like I can see you can model. Like you potentially would be employable. But the only problem is you're going to be compared against people that did match their reference perfectly. So who would you pick? The person that matched their reference perfectly, or the person that attempted a concept but didn't really pull it off? If they're both
I think that's a very important point to consider, is that it's not necessarily whether this is good or not. Is it better than every other piece that will be sent to this company? And you, in the end, basically, that's what it comes down to. I mean, you might obviously be lucky with timing and all of that as well, but in the end, you'll have to have the better work than everybody else. So it doesn't matter whether it's like, I don't know, there's a certain explanation of why this doesn't look as good or doesn't look right.
Yeah, you can't sit down and explain it.
It has to be perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to get the opportunity to go on the phone with the supervisor and talk to them. Unless you get the interview. And even then, by that stage, they're not going to critique your folio. They're going to be talking to you about who you are as a person. But yeah, it's pretty cool stuff, man. It's I definitely think you obviously you do know how to model. I just think the problem-solving side is what you're lacking. But that's the hard part, especially when you're not that experienced. Like to pulling this off for 2 years, very cool. But I think definitely, I know I always talk about the motorcycle all the time, but building something like a motorcycle, I feel you would nail that much better. But yeah, that's just my thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff, man. What else do we have? Do you have any questions? Fabrizo.
And I'm just gonna go to the washroom.
Yeah, no worries. We're just setting stuff up. Check my whisper. Alright. David is having a bit of a break anyway. Fabrizo, who's Evans? How have people found this so far in general? Q&A questions. Oh shit, so you actually, you made a Q&A for us. Awesome, man. Yo, channel boy, I need to request access to this. So let's see. So who is next? Fabazo. Fabazo? Are you around? Yes, everyone has their pre-made things. I'm happy. All right. Sorry. Now I need to go to the restroom. I'll be back in a sec. Cool. All right. So let's pull all this up. Are you reading the chat at all, David?
I just looked at it. I haven't been so far, no.
Okay. So let's up. So Fabrizo said, "Hi there. Thanks for doing this. I'm a student in second year uni. At the moment, I've done everything from modeling, look dev, comp, texturing, etc. But I'm mostly interested in modeling and texturing. Some of the work is from my first year of uni and will probably be replaced when I actually apply for a real job after graduation. We have been doing game assets for the last 4 months at school, but that's not included in the reel. But I'm more interested in VFX, so that won't probably make it. You won't. Wait, what? I'm more interested in VFX, so that work probably won't make. All right, cool, awesome. Sounds good. Awesome. We have a demo reel to watch. We'll just watch this. Yo, David, you are back, right?
Yes, I am.
Alright,
Thanks.
sick. I'm so confused with the corner section.
The corner section.
I'll explain in a bit. Kinda cool.
Yeah, I was. Oh, interesting. It already finished playing on my screen.
It finished playing on your screen. How?
Yeah.
It hasn't finished on
So
my screen. You're not in the future, are
no,
you?
no, no. I mean, in my browser because I played it.
Oh, you played it as well. I was like, wait a minute. I thought you were watching my screen. All right, cool. Do you want to start, David, or
Yeah, sure.
actually, sorry, can I comment one thing?
Yeah,
This is a massive modeling pet peeve of mine, but I really dislike when okay, so firstly, when you show a presentation of your model, I personally think it's best to show the pre-smoothed wireframe so we can actually see what you did. But one thing I really dislike, I mean, this is a personal pet peeve of mine. I do see a lot of people in the industry do this as well, and I kind of think it's just lazy. But I really dislike edge loops for supporting edges running together like this. It's very easy to just terminate edges without having them run down the full mesh like that. Because the problem with this sort of stuff is, say for example, you take this into ZBrush and you smooth this, you're going to have way more topology fixed in these corners. So like sculpting on top of this would be weird. But I also think it's just mostly a pet peeve of mine. I really dislike when edges run across the whole mesh when you can just terminate them quite easily. But that's more a 101 of modeling. So, we can talk more about that sort of stuff later. But
yeah, generally just without commenting too much on the textures or the materials. I think that part looks fine. It's the nature of this asset is obviously you're doing a toy already that is like limiting yourself to a certain level of detail that you probably will never be doing when you're actually doing the work at the company. I mean, sure, there might be a
we
chance
rarely
where
make
you're
toys.
where you're doing that, but it's just you're obviously going to have in the back of your mind the real thing, and you will be comparing it to the real thing, and it's limiting. I wouldn't
1 week
pick
is pretty
anything
cool though.
like this.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is since you're at school, you can't
Yeah,
really
yeah,
pick and choose your portfolio piece. I mean, you can't really pick and choose your tasks. But okay, the reason I was talking about the thing in the corner, I kind of really dislike this presentation. I just find this really distracting. I don't
yeah.
see what the point of this is.
It seems unnecessary.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's like a school tracking exercise or something. You have to take an asset and just put it and integrate it. I'm guessing.
but I just don't understand what's going
But
on.
I wouldn't show it. Yeah, it's just I don't think it's worth showing.
Yeah, I find this is kind of too close to the camera for me. I would rather it was just slightly pushed back a little bit.
Oh, sorry. I think I just commented on something that I was seeing on my screen, but you
Oh,
weren't showing on
no,
your
no,
screen.
no, David, look at my screen. So the car, right?
Yeah,
I find the thing in the corner a bit distracting. Like I don't see the point of this.
yeah.
It looks,
I do like the car paint material.
yeah, it's pretty
Um,
cool.
but if you're showing it off like this, I mean, this is obviously a very polished asset, a polished object. It's supposed to be quite clean, I guess, but it's still a little bit too perfect. You definitely need some breakup in the spec on all these surfaces, especially the chrome looks just a little too pristine.
It'd be nice to see the wireframe as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I also
Yeah.
wouldn't bother putting this in. It doesn't matter what program you use. So I wouldn't
No.
put that in the corner.
Yeah.
That especially this big, it's huge. This doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Um,
And also having the car, I don't know, with a different paint. I'm not sure if that.
Yeah, I think it's
That's
better just to
everything.
stick the same paint.
Yeah.
Because now I'm just confused at like what's going on here as well. Like
Yeah.
I'm kind of confused what I'm looking at. Wait, what's going on underneath the car? This. Is that the shadows? That's so strange.
Yeah, I guess there are a bunch of different light sources going on.
Yeah, I just kind of don't know what's going on.
I'm wondering if this supposed to be a model, a small object, like small as in a miniature toy, or is it a real thing? Because if it's a real thing, some of the seams, like in particular the doors, seem really big. Maybe that's actually the case with these old cars. I don't know. But it does seem a bit out of proportion, even if it's an old car like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the glass that you have, there's something, I think, something wrong with the refraction. Again, if you really want to do materials and you're not an expert, just download something. Just get something really cheap, or usually you can get it for free.
Oh, he says it's a smoke sim. Alright, if you're doing like modeling and texturing, I wouldn't do any form of effects ever. But I know, for example, this is for school. Actually, no, this is a side project. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't. If you're focusing on modeling and texturing, I definitely wouldn't do this.
Oh no, yeah, that as well. But I was just the headlights in general. That's what I was talking about earlier.
Okay.
But yeah, the smoke. Yeah, or is there smoke in the headlights? I don't know.
Yeah, it's smoke coming out of the tires.
But yeah, and again, like with the smoke sim, I mean, this is with a student. Really, it's always a little bit a different situation because you're doing a lot of different projects. But I remember we did a lot of different assignments at school, and I wouldn't put any of this stuff into my demo reel because I wanted to focus on one particular thing. And you really don't need to show off the smoke simulation if you're focusing on modeling or texturing or whatever.
Did you hear that? Someone that went to VFS wouldn't put their VFS work in their demo reel.
Right.
Yeah, I think because that's the problem. Like when you go to school, is they're gonna try and teach you to do everything, but when you get out of it, you want to focus. So I still think, like this is the thing. Like a lot of people assume you finish school and just walk into industry. It never works that way. Well, very rarely, I feel. Like after you get out of school, you have to sit down and focus on making your reel tailored to how you want.
Yeah. Like you can definitely use pieces of that work.
But push it to
I
the
would
next level.
just not. Yeah, but at least I wouldn't put everything in there because I mean, yes, you can. You might be applying for a generalist position, but if you're a generalist, you need to be really good at everything, or you just go the other route where you're an expert at one thing.
Yeah, totally.
But as a student, you're going to be bad at pretty much everything.
It's just everyone starts off like unexperienced.
Yeah,
it's just how it is.
Yeah. So it's better to really focus on one thing.
The blender explosion thing is kind of cool. I don't know if it's really needed, but
yeah, I'm not a fan of these kinds of presentations because I mean, I guess in this case you actually went through the trouble of modeling every single one of these pieces. So
it doesn't bother me too much.
In this case, it makes sense, but sometimes it doesn't really make much sense for me with the garbage truck. Or not the garbage truck.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense for this to be exploded. There's no reason.
Yeah.
It's too simple.
Yeah.
The only reason I would explode something like this is if you had like a realistic car and it came apart and you had the engine inside.
Yeah, the transmission and the screws and everything. Yeah.
That's the only time it's worth doing something like this is if you have a really complex model within inside that model.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I wouldn't bother with the explosion at the start. But the blender, I can kind of justify it to an extent because there is complexity within the blender.
Totally.
But at the end of the day, the blender itself is not going to be a strong portfolio piece.
Yeah.
Like eventually, it's just too simple. I feel. And I guess this is also my personal preference. I would always show the pre-smoothed wireframe so we can see what you modeled.
Yeah.
Hey, this person did the bump.
Yeah, very nice.
Someone has done the bump. Thank God. But how do you feel about this, David?
I was actually at the beginning, just the very first time I looked at this, I wasn't really sure what in this was CG. Then I mean, if you look closer, it obviously becomes apparent. But I was just skipping through the whole reel and I saw this and didn't notice it immediately. But yeah, I mean, the one thing that bothers me most about this is that I feel the whole thing is really dark. I mean, like the rendered pieces are quite dark. I'm not sure if I'm seeing that correctly. I might be wrong.
It does feel pretty dark.
But and the other thing is that I would put a little. If you're putting it in such a dirty environment, I would definitely make it a lot more dirty as well, like all the other pieces here.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just really dusty. I don't think it's necessary to show integration like this if you're again. I mean, depends on what your focus is, but you're opening a big can of worms if you're trying to go for integration as well with all the shadows and compositing. Like I can tell there is some chromatic aberration going on in the reference in the plate, and you don't have that on the rendered elements. And if you are putting that stuff together like this, then obviously you're going to be touched on all these things as well. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily do that if your focus isn't compositing.
Yeah, totally. Like if I was to go back to being a student now, I wouldn't bother integrating anything I did in CG into Plate. I just wouldn't, since I don't want to, if I want to focus on assets, I wouldn't bother with integration. But I mean, like once again, we know this is student work. You could have had to do this as your assignment. But yeah, at first glance, I was like, this is pretty cool. So
yeah.
It was definitely pretty strong for someone still in school as far
yeah,
as
I'm actually,
very
yeah,
quick
I
thing.
think this is actually one of my favorite pieces so far here.
Oh shit, I went to next. Whoops. Let's see, what is next? Oh, this thing. Alright, I feel this stuff is definitely your weakest stuff.
Yeah.
This, definitely. This is super CG. Like this does look like an old cartoon sort of thing. Like it's...
Yeah.
For example, if you do want to focus on modeling texturing, we almost never do full environments like this. So I would try and stay clear away from this, because you have to pull this off really well.
Yeah. I mean, there are RLM, this is done by the generalists.
Yeah, this is a completely different department to what we do.
And yeah, and they have a lot of experience with that, and it's obviously super tricky to pull this off.
Totally. So I think I would, if you want to do modeling and texturing, I would totally just not even bother with this.
Yeah.
As far as this goes, yeah, same thing. I wouldn't bother with animation. One thing that kind of annoys me is that these little thrusters are somehow carrying the whole thing. Like it feels really out of proportion. These little things on the back, this feels very unbalanced.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
And you would never land with your thruster on the floor. Like it's just,
the whole thing just couldn't carry the front anymore once the back is at the bottom. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, just as a general design thing, I don't think this is very strong as a design. But in general, like, there's no point of showing it off like this because we can't see it. Like, I don't really know what I'm looking at. Where it looks completely different here.
Yeah.
The environment wasn't part of your work. Oh, okay. So if the environment isn't part of your work, you should definitely put that in. We're forced to use that background. Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like, if this is student work, there are all these limitations that you have to deal with that nobody else is going to know about.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's I wouldn't show most of this stuff. But like the part that I showed in my student work was when we at VFS we got out of the 1 year program length, we got about 6 months at the end to basically 100% do our own thing. So there wasn't any elements that we had to use that somebody else provided, or no limitations really. So it's really all up to you, and you can put your own limitations on yourself, and you're responsible for that yourself. So I wouldn't show any assignments unless they're just really that good.
Where does it say he did just the thing? Just his final result. Isn't this what we're looking at? Oh, foreground all aspects. Wait, so you're forced to use this? That sucks, because this is what pulls everything down.
Yeah. Although, I wouldn't show this.
Yeah, I wouldn't show. But that kind of sucks. I feel if you're forced to use a background image, it should at
Yeah,
least the school
pretty
should
bad.
provide something very strong.
Yeah.
Because this,
Or I mean, especially just I don't know why wouldn't you have it provide you a plate basically that you need, because that's what you're going to do in the
as part of a
in your
student
job
film.
as well. You will be matching a plate. You will have to match the lighting to a plate, but this looks like you had to match obviously a 3D.
Yeah. He said it was part of a student film, David.
Oh right. Oh okay.
Yeah. I feel it definitely pulls it down.
Yeah.
Charge of vehicle design, modeling, texturing, and rigging. Yeah, I feel the design aspect of this is not too strong. It doesn't feel right, I feel.
I think if you have shapes and like a look generally so sleek and clean, you will really need to pull off all the level of detail. Because if you there is I remember this one asset from Elysium that a friend of mine textured, which was this kind of spaceship that had kind of a similar shape to this one. I think it was like what was it? Some Lamborghini or something.
Oh, the one on Elysium. Like.
Yeah, I think I don't know. No, it was like this small little transport shuttle that.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Guys owned. And that was like it's like a car. It was super sleek and clean, but it had still a nice level of detail, and the shaders were just spot on. So even despite the fact that it had fairly smooth shapes and really no detail to look at, it just looked super realistic and believable. And this just doesn't have that
Whoa, what
level
is
of
that?
detail.
Is that modeled in? Oh, I don't know. Whatever that is, it looks like a mistake.
Yeah, I noticed there are some vents on the left side, just in front of the engine, towards the front, kind of covered now, which also seem to be bump or I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's a clean detail.
That's the thing. Like your realistic stuff is quite decent, but it's more the design stuff which pulls you down, I feel. I think that's always the general thing when it comes to like doing CG in general. There's a lot of people try to pull off concept, but they're not concept artists.
Yeah.
But then they can pull off pretty decent assets. How do you feel about this sort of thing, David?
This one is actually quite cool. I honestly, compared to all the other stuff, I think that's a very good result. Looking at the those little copper cans, the color seems to be a little bit off. Seems like there's a little bit more blue or red in the reference. The other one looks a bit more orange. But I think you did a pretty good job at matching these. I mean, there are definitely tweaks that can be made.
What do you feel about like this reflection compared to like that one? Like these look complete. This looks super CG. This section compared to that one.
Wait, let me pull it up on my screen because I can't really see it on the small one here.
So yeah, the little spout section, this bit compared to this, look completely different to each other.
Yeah, I see that now. Yeah. Yeah,
like
definitely.
how white this is compared to this. I mean, I'm not a comp artist, but these that's very super obvious to me, I feel. But in general, it looks pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, there is definitely a different the whites are definitely a different color. The color balance is different, and this looks like it's quite flat. Like the whites are definitely kept. But yeah, like the glass. I don't know if that's something that a lot of people would be able to do at that level as a student level.
Yeah,
I think
exactly. It's not easy.
I've seen pretty bad stuff like this from students. So as also at VFS, that's actually not too bad.
Yeah, it's pretty decent. Man.
Yeah.
What is this? Oh, a little close-up thing. How do you feel about this?
Yeah, there's. First of all,
sorry.
I wouldn't show
this
such extreme close-ups of anything if it's not
perfect.
Really perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably get rid of this. Like this looks super CG to me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you've got. I actually quite like these. There is some. If you go back again on the left upper one, there is some. I don't know, some sticky stains or something.
All this stuff.
Yeah. There are some cool elements, but overall, I don't think it's worth showing something like this really close up. Yeah, the materials just don't really seem totally refined. Seems a bit specky. Especially the texture detail in the back of the case to me is not very detailed. There is a lot of just very, very soft. Yeah, it's very soft shapes, and then suddenly on top of that, it's really crisp bump on it, which doesn't really have any specific look to it. It's just little grains of bump, basically. It's difficult to see what detail is coming from. If it's like a resolution issue, or is that the shapes are not actually there. If you're worried about having certain details that you can't actually get with a certain resolution of images that you have available, there just isn't any other solution than finding a better image or creating something in Photoshop that works better. It's not really a solution to just scale up the whole thing and project it anyway. It's going to look off. If you don't have a proper resolution image, you might want to go into Photoshop and start tiling it and removing seams and adding other elements on top of it to break up the repetitive look of it. But yeah, be careful with changing the scale of texture details that you want to add, because it really quickly takes away the realism.
How do you find the wood?
It looks it's difficult to recognize it as wood. I mean, it's
would something like this be this rough?
Oh, sorry, you were looking at this wood. I was looking at the table.
Oh, not the table. The wood of the actual thing.
Yeah, the wood actually looks kind of like fake wood.
Yeah, like you wouldn't like something like this would be quite smooth, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Like if you were to physically manufacture this. I mean, I don't know what the original looks like, but
considering how shiny it is, it looks like it would be smooth plastic. If it was real wood, and it would be this grainy, or with this sort of those streaks, those wooden grainy streaks. I think it would be more rough. But
I want to see the topology of this, because this is a pretty complex shape. Do you have a topology in here? No, you don't. Yeah, showing the topology of this would be pretty cool, because I'd be interested to see how you pulled this off, because this is a pretty complex shape. But yeah, in general, it looks pretty cool so far, I think. Oh yeah, here's the topology. Yeah, it's not. I would definitely do it like sub D, proper modeling. I mean, I can see this is just poly. Yeah. So this isn't something we would do in modeling. I mean, this isn't something we would use in film. It's just a bit too high res, I think. So what are you saying?
Yeah. On the next one, I just on the big one. I do like that you have different types of damage on there. There are scratches. There are just generally worn bits, which is really important. I remember. I think there was one particular piece in the portfolio list, I think, that we're going to get to, that didn't have that, and I think it really makes a difference. It just starts looking very procedural if you don't have these different levels or different qualities of damage. So that's good.
Cool. So yeah, that's the end of this folder. Do you have any questions or any thoughts on the review of your folio?
Oh, just one more thing. I think one thing that you could do, looking at those seams, you could have the leather a little bit raised where those seams come together. I mean, the fact that you have seams without actually the leather being cut is not not a great idea. But if you paint a little bit of a raised edge where the seams are, I think that would add another level of realism to it.
Cool. What does he say? No, I'm all good. Thanks a lot for the feedback. Awesome. That's very cool stuff, man. Especially for a student, it's pretty cool. Who's next? Daniel Evans. Cool. You did you double, David?
Oh, yeah.
So Daniel Evans is now. Are you in the chat, Daniel? He is. All right, cool. Can you explain like what you want to do, what you're aiming for? Oh, you've already got it. Awesome. I like how the chat is on board, on top of what they're doing.
Yeah.
So we have 3 portfolios left. I think we'll just do the 3. So no one donate any more money. You can donate money to support if you want, but no more portfolios. Let's see. Because we'll also do a David. You find it doing a Q&A afterwards.
Yeah.
Cool.
Totally.
So who's next? Next is thing. J3D. Cool. Hi Andrew and David. I'm 19 and I would like to further your. Damn, that's pretty good for 19. I would like to further. Fuck, I wasn't this good at 19. I would like to further my modeling abilities so I can get employed in VFX. Though texturing is probably my weaker skill set. I think I have a bad habit of adding too much grunge and dirt. That's a pretty standard student thing in general, I think. So I'd like to improve my texturing as well as modeling, and overall what I could do better to increase my chance of getting an internship into the VFX industry. As a modeler texturer, as I've been finding it difficult to get my foot in the door. And you're self-taught. That's fucking awesome. I think it's very cool you're self-taught. But yeah, just a general thing on getting into the industry itself. You could have the best industry. You could have the best folio on the planet, but it still doesn't mean you're just going to instantly get a job. Like, a lot of things do come into consideration, like timing, like who you know, things like that all do matter. So just because you don't get a job doesn't mean your folio is bad. That's just a general thing to put out there. But yeah, let's check out your reel. Yeah, for self-taught, it's pretty decent.
Yep.
Yo, Vince, thanks for the raid, man. Pretty cool, man. Alright, the first thing I want to comment on is your turntables are very slow. I personally feel you could have gotten your demo reel and shrunk it, like just sped all your turntables up, and your reel would have been like 1:30 or something. That's just my first general feel. Especially, I was kind of feeling that, like, so we're not even talking about modeling and texturing yet, but I felt I kind of got bored looking up at Harrison Ford's face because it just took too long to get there. But yeah, that's just my general feel on the presentation. I feel it should have just been faster. That's pretty much it. But yeah, do you
Yeah, I mean, I think generally just doing likeness, I think, is
risky.
Really, really risky. It's probably the most risky thing you can do. Because first of all, doing characters is risky because humans especially, because everybody knows what a human looks like, and it's just really, really easy to pick things and say, "Oh, this doesn't look right," or something looks off. Everybody knows that something might look off because everybody knows faces like nothing else. We look at faces all the time. So it's really easy to pick it apart, even if it just doesn't look quite right. That's enough really of a reason to say, okay, this is not good. So I would really steer away from doing any type of likeness work at that level. I mean, considering that you have been doing this, I don't know for how long, but at 19, it's actually pretty good. But so I wouldn't discourage you from pursuing this further, but I'm not sure if I would. I mean, pursuing likeness specifically further, but I'm not sure if I would actually put any sort of likeness match, especially of obviously somebody very famous that we all know what they look like. I'm not sure if I would put that in a reel. From the front, I mean, it's not really bad. It's definitely recognizable, but it has flaws. And if you want to get into the industry as a character artist and you want to work on likeness and stuff like that, and characters, like you might actually do a digital for Harrison Ford, it really has to be spot on. And chances are, if you're just showing stuff like this, it's going to be really tricky for anybody to hire you, because they already have people who do the likeness perfectly well. So what else would they be using you for? Because you haven't really shown anything else. I mean, anyway, in this really you have other things, but if you're really focusing on only this, it would be very tricky to get into the industry if it's not perfect already.
Okay, like even like most professionals struggle with likeness. Like I wouldn't even bother attempting a likeness. Like
it's super hard.
Yeah. Like there's so many like even industry veterans that don't pull off the likeness. It's especially for like a well-known actor like this, it's very hard. And then especially if you do like a slow motion pan up it. Yeah, I think likeness as a student is the last thing you should touch.
Yeah,
that's
definitely
the last thing. It's the hardest to pull off. And I think the problem is also your demo reel starts with this. And because your demo reel starts with this, it already kind of sets the expectation low for the demo reel, I feel.
Yeah.
Where I feel if you started with Chappie, because Chappie is quite strong, I would be more interested in looking on in the demo reel. Because the problem is, what's going to happen is, people will open your demo reel. Wait, where's this? Was that in the demo reel?
I was wondering too, did I?
Yeah, where's that? It's not in the demo reel.
But then Rocket is in it?
Yeah, okay, so if you're going to have this, put your things in. And I would put it in, yeah, where's this as well? So I wouldn't do this. Don't. Where's America's ass? So yeah, I would definitely don't do this, because I want to see this, because this is cool. I think, wait a minute. Yeah, I think this is cool. I think this is pretty decent, but I want to see this. Is it alright to show fan art? Yeah, fan art in a portfolio is fine. That doesn't matter.
As long as it's not, again, like one of those things that everybody knows what they look like, because
exactly.
then you have to really match it.
Don't make the District 9 gun, because everyone does it.
Yeah, I mean, even the Chappie thing, obviously, if you go to Image Engine and apply with a Chappie, it better be perfect, because they did it. So, and there might always be, like, you might not know, like, imagine if Image Engine did this, and you think, okay, I'm gonna apply it, I don't know, ILM. There might still be the guy who did it at Image Engine now be working at ILM.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's very risky to do something that is already well known in the industry.
Like I worked with the modeler that did Chappie at Method. Like it's.
Yeah.
Please look at his art station. He has a really nice Jack Sparrow there. Okay, but the problem is, this is the main problem. He sent us this as his demo reel. So this is what we would
you will be judged on what you
judge. Like, say for example, if I open this and I see this, I wouldn't continue at this point.
Yeah.
That's the risk you take. You get one shot. Yeah, you have to step out with your strongest foot.
And also, what I noticed with this likeness is that from the front it looks better than from the side. And I know that's something that when I started doing some likeness sculpts first, I also had this issue that it's just you focus on what you see from the front, and then from the side it's just the likeness falls apart a little bit because you're just not focusing on it as much. But but it's not. I think
for a self-taught 19-year-old.
Yeah,
it's very good.
Very good start. Like there's some yeah, some work, if you have somebody who's doing this for 10 years and it just doesn't look right, I would say maybe focus on something else. But I wouldn't discourage you from pursuing this. I just don't think if you...
It's there yet.
Yeah, it's there yet. If you want to get in this industry, you might want to do something else to get in, and then you can focus on
Yeah, exactly. Focus on getting into the industry first, and then do likeness after. Because
yeah, you have to be a bit political about it.
Yeah, likeness itself is very hard, and they're not gonna hire a junior to do likeness. No chance. There's no way in hell a studio would hire a junior, and give them Harrison Ford to make likeness of.
Yeah, even if it's perfect, that wouldn't happen. They have a guy already who can do this.
Yeah, exactly.
And they only need one guy.
Yeah, exactly. As far as Chapter goes, it's pretty cool. Did you model that? I want to see that. Wait, where's the model? Oh, it's away from him. Yeah, as far as Chappie goes, there's nothing really to comment on. The modeling itself is pretty nice. Everything, yeah, solid model. That's why I think your Chappie is much stronger. I would much rather see the Chappie first.
Yeah, I think what you said definitely. Was it you who said that you struggle a little bit with over texturing or just going too
juniors?
crunchy?
Yeah.
So I think whoever posted this said that they're struggling. I think with just going a little bit far.
Yep.
And I can definitely see that on Chappie here. I mean, I if I remember correctly, this asset was
he was banged up like this though, right?
Yeah, he was quite banged up. Yeah. So that might be a bad example. But
does this make sense? All this blackness?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a little bit hard to see any detail here. I mean, I know it was lit like this in the film as well to some degree. But yeah, if you're showing it off like this, you might have a little bit more light in there. Yeah, just make sure that you have all the materials really distinctly recognizable. So oil, more grimy and shiny, maybe if it's fresh oil, then the paint and dust, really a rough surface, so it really stands out. Or not necessarily stands out as something different, but I mean you can definitely recognize it's a different material.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Wait, that's kind of weird. I find this is kind of weird for me. The fact that the turntable of the wireframe and the texture don't line up.
Yeah,
that's really weird for me. Because
it should. I mean, yeah.
Especially if it fades like this, it should match.
Yeah.
I mean, in theory, there's no reason it should, because you should just use the same camera for both. But the fact that it fades from the texture to the wireframe is really weird for me. So I would definitely make sure you use the same camera and make sure it lines up perfectly if you're going to do the fade like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is just presentation stuff.
Yeah. So there is actually a nice, better lit one.
I like how you got damaged. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
The subtle edge breakup, well, it's not breakup, but subtle edge warping like this is pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely, that makes a big difference. The materials to me just don't quite seem right. Like the fact when you have the paint really worn, I would the specular highlight just seems to be pretty much the same, the specular quality between paint, and the metals, and where you have that really damaged, burnt or whatever. Like if you keep scrolling a little bit, no, on his chest.
Oh, the chest. Can we go back? Here we go.
Like this, whatever impacted it here. I would expect to see some sort of. I can't imagine how this happened. I guess there would be a lot more metal exposed, I think, or at least I would make it that way. Even if it might not be so realistic, I think it would be realistic, but I would definitely do this. I would just put a lot more exposed metal here.
You mean like in this section here? Like it's blown
just
away
on the
chunk
edges.
of the layer.
Yeah. And where you have, it just seems a little bit painted, like it's a little bit too airbrushed, the whole thing. All the color variation on the chest here just seems a little bit airbrushed. And on his left biceps area, there is the texture looks really low res.
This looks this looks kind of strange to me.
Yeah.
Like it's just something stamped on.
It clearly looks like just using some low res images. And across the whole thing, it just generally looks like all the textures are very low res. You've got a really detailed model, but the textures look like it really looks to me like you textured it in 4K and then downrested it to 512 or something. There doesn't seem to be any crisp detail on there, which is a pity because
it's a good model. Especially if you're going to show it this close.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you're showing it that close, then the resolution really needs to be there, and you've got the model details, so.
Yeah, the model detail is amazing, man. Like the model is really good. You could, this is quite strong.
But again, it's one of those things where people know what this looks like, especially the industry people. This is a very cool asset that everybody knows about in the hard surface model world.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's risky.
It is risky. That's true.
But it's good. It's a nice model.
The gun's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, in terms of, I mean,
is there something weird in the animation? Does it kind of pull out a bit? It does. So, yeah, okay, I definitely avoid doing that. So, when you do a turntable of your asset in general, you want it to stay within the frame. But I can see it's going to go out of the frame here. So, it's pulling back, isn't it?
I think that's an animation. Yeah, that's an animation issue that
looks
it's
like the camera pulls back.
Might be a softly interpolated curve of the animation.
He says it is.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, okay, if you're going to do a turntable of asset, make sure it stays within the frame. You don't want it to like move the camera because it kind of just feels weird. Like it's not necessarily going to reflect on your modeling, but I just kind of noticed it. So you just kind of question like why would they make that decision?
It looks like sloppily done, even if it's an accident. And I understand, I guess, if you hit render, you only have one chance to render it, and then it happens. There's no way to go back.
Yeah, like we do turntables for director reviews and VFX supervisors, so we can't do that. Like we can't just have the camera animating as the model turntables. It might just look a bit weird. So it's just something to get used to. Just make sure you frame your asset within the turntable to fit. But as far as like the general asset goes, it looks pretty cool to me.
Yeah.
Like once again, I would rather see the pre-smooth version. But this is pretty decent modeling. So there's nothing really to complain about the modeling. Because also the thing is, this is post-smooth, so I can't really see the topology too well. General idea is pretty decent though. Is there anything really to talk about?
Maybe in terms of the presentation, I do like the way it's presented, but I think you have the light coming from the top, and most of the detail and obviously the interesting parts are on the side.
It's kind of lost.
So it's a little bit lost in the shadow.
Yeah, I would much rather a dark grey background than a black background.
Yeah. And I mean, you could definitely have some spec map at least on there, something even procedural. I mean, if you're already going to the extent of having, you did choose some different materials here, then I would kind of expect to see a little bit of points of interest in texture-wise as well to make it look just a little bit less CG. Otherwise, again, I would just do a gray shader.
What do you think about Rocket?
I'm actually surprised. I mean, again, for your experience, I think this is
pretty good.
Really well done. Like you got the proportions and everything, and it looks just like. I mean, in terms of the overall the shapes and everything is there, and everything is where it should be, like the real one.
Yeah, this is what the film asset would look like. It's pretty good. I'm always curious. Cautious. I'm always cautious about putting groom in my demo reel unless you want to do groom, because you could get hired for groom and then get pigeonholed in it. So if you don't want to be a full-time groom artist, I'm always a bit skeptical with putting groom in, because I know friends that got pigeonholed into groom, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, like even the expression to me,
pretty cool.
It's very good. Yeah, it's just overall the materials don't look right to me, and the groom itself, in terms of the coloring, and I guess I'm not even close to knowing anything about groom, but it just looks really, really rough to me. Like it's just not rendered with high quality settings. And I mean that might be a limitation to your rendering power that you have available.
How
But
do you
it does
feel about
distract.
showing? Oh, sorry. How do you feel about showing things this close to the camera, though?
Yeah, it really needs to be
Perfect.
perfect if you do that.
I personally wouldn't put your camera too close to your asset.
Yeah, I think you're obviously proud of your work, and because you've also shown that with the Harrison Ford one really close up. But even most of the time, I mean, when we're doing asset work, it's not holding up to that level if it's never being shown in any shot like this. It's not made for this level. If you want it to be close up like this, then you have to make it for this kind of distance, and then you have to put a little bit more detail in.
Yeah, the animation annoys me as well. Yeah, don't. I wouldn't make your animation any complexer than it has to be. Just have a turntable, super simple turntable. Because the pull in and then spin is a bit weird. Because you can see it kind of do this as well. Like you can see the model kind of go this way and then come back and then start turning, and it doesn't add to the demo reel at all.
No, I think it's an accident.
Yeah, the problem is people are going to see the accident.
Yeah, it's something you can't look away from.
Yeah, exactly. But I think, yeah, the general asset is really cool.
Yeah.
Topology flow is pretty decent. It's pretty consistent across the mesh. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the texturing, the resolution of the textures, and the material definition doesn't look right.
Yeah, for being a 19-year-old self-taught artist, this is pretty fucking legit.
Yeah.
This is pretty good for a 19-year-old self-taught artist.
And another thing that I like is that you have broken up the symmetry on the whole thing. Especially the facial expression is different. I'm trying to see if even the whole like the material, the cloth is different from left to right in some areas, and that's really good. That's something that a lot of people don't do.
Yeah, this is really good. No, very, very strong stuff. Do you have any questions? This is very good. You look like you have a bright future ahead if you're 19 and you're self-taught.